Producers often deal with legal issues involving real estate, as land is a major asset of an operation. And with third parties typically being involved, issues can arise regarding eminent domain and owner responsibility. Roger McEowen with Washburn School of Law joins us now with some guidance in today's Rural Money segment. Roger, now under the Constitution, the government can take land for a public purpose. How can that impact a farming operation?
Well, good to be with you today, Tammy. It can in important ways. Of course, the government has the constitutional right, both at the federal as well as the state level, to take private property for a public purpose, but they have to pay for it under the Fifth Amendment. And we get into these issues of what is a public purpose. Many people will probably remember a U.S. Supreme Court case about 15 years ago involving a town in New York where the allegation was, well, you're just taking it for a private purpose so that a research park could be developed. And the Supreme Court gave an important ruling on that. And a lot of states tightened up their own laws on that. But, you know, a government can come and they can take part of your property if they want to expand a road. They can maybe take property for a public park, those types of things. But it has to be for a public purpose. And there was a case in Iowa recently that dealt with this, and the landowner said, well, you're taking part of my farmland to benefit a privately owned concrete batch plant. And ultimately, the Supreme Court in Iowa, or the Iowa Court of Appeals, said, well, if it is just to benefit the concrete batch plant in this rural area personally and privately, then that's unconstitutional. But they were able to show the batch plant was with county supervisor testimony and other road officials that, look, the road was a hazard. It needed to be improved. It can't handle heavy traffic. It can't handle more traffic unless it's improved. We're going to have to take part of your farm for that. And that was deemed to be constitutional. Then the issue is, you know, I need to get paid for it. How do we figure that out?
Now, can a rural road not be an official county road? If so, what does that mean?
Yeah, we get into that issue a lot in rural areas. You may see minimum maintenance roads where the counties don't do much. That's still an official road. You may have abandoned roads, and if the procedure has been followed to formally abandon a road, or a road has never been formally adopted to be a road, then the county doesn't have responsibility for it. And that came up in a Kentucky case recently, and the court said the procedures had not been followed for the county to actually adopt this road. It's a private road, therefore you can put gates across it and you can move livestock on it, for example.
So interesting there. Now, what about the situation where adjoining landowners don't really know where the actual property boundary is? How does the law address that situation?
Yeah, that's a big issue in rural areas. We see that more often than not. And in fact, what one thing is that people in town don't realize, if they buy an acreage and move out into the country, that and they get a survey done, that more often than not in a rural area, the doctrine of practical location comes into being rather than a survey. In other words, what I mean by that is if I farmed up to one side or to a location, to a point, maybe a tree line or whatever it is, for a certain period of time, and you've done the same on your side, then that's known as a boundary by acquiescence. We've just kind of agreed that that's the boundary. Well, if either one of us sells our tract and somebody buys it, and then they have a survey done, and they realize, oh, it's actually, I have more land than what we had been farming up to, that survey is going to give way to the way that property had been treated. If it's been treated, that area has been treated as the boundary for a long enough period of time defined by statute. That came up in an Iowa case involving just simply the movement of cattle over a period of time created a boundary by acquiescence. So really unique ways that boundaries can be established in rural areas. And sometimes fences are not put on the surveyed boundary, and if they're there in that particular location for a long enough period of time, that is the actual boundary, or it can become the actual boundary.
All right, always a good idea to get it surveyed. That's Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law. We appreciate you joining us today.